Hello, welcome to the shop. Today we're going to be demonstrating how to use a router and this jig to make loose tenon mortise joints. So let's get started. Let's talk about the anatomy of our jig. First off, we'll notice that the front and the top are 90 degrees perpendicular to one another. Very important that we have it that way to make very strong and tight joints. We've got a center mark on our piece. We have an oak rail running across the front. It serves a dual purpose. In the horizontal mode here, it holds the stile in place while we make our cuts. And when we want to cut our rails, we use it as a clamp. The jig has a built-in clamp to hold our cuts in the horizontal position, and we've got 3 stops that we set up in the various slots on the face to establish repetitive cuts. Very important for this jig. Now let's move to the top. On top we see a dual slotted piece here. The larger slot is for the sled to travel in. The smaller slot is for our stops. In the back we see a raveted piece here. This holds the sled and keeps it from tipping forward when you're making your cuts. Those are all adjustable. Our sled consists of a plastic sheet. This is actually a cutting board that I pressed into service in this jig. Look at the bottom here. It's got a hardwood runner that rides in that larger slot. It's got a hole cut for the router. We make the adjustments to our rail here, this piece, by using these knobs. And here we have a slot cut, or a mark cut on both the leading and the trailing edge that establish the center of our bit. So it helps us set our piece up very nice. And this slides on this slot, rides in that right there. Of course, you have your router that plunges in, and so that's the anatomy of it. Let's start looking at our markups here for our pieces. Let's go to our prototypes first. You'll see here that we have marks for the center of the thickness of the stock, our mortise beginnings and ends, and the center point, and the same as the beginning and the ending and the center point for our rail. Our tenon stock slides in there and it makes the joint. So let's go through that process real quick. Let's talk about our tenon stock first. Our tenon stock is 3/8 of an inch by 1 5/8 inches wide. Now you can make your tenon stock to fit your mortises, or you can make your mortises to fit your tenon stock. Doesn't matter as long as you get both of them right. So let's look at this, and we're going to put that aside and look at our stock itself. We measure our stock and we find out that it is 2 3/8 inches wide, and if you do the math, 1 5/8 inches from that would leave you an offset of 3/8 of an inch on both each sides of your mortises. Okay, so let's first start off by finding the thickness, the center of our thickness, and we'll do that by using a homemade thickness gauge here. And let's take it and run that line across that right there. Makes a nice line. And now we've established the center of our thickness of our stock. And now we want to mark that with our offset of 3/8 of an inch. And let's mark that spot there. Okay. Now let's take our rail piece and do the same. We're going to mark our offset here, 3/8 of an inch on each side. Now what we need to do is establish the center of the width of our piece. Now we can do that by measuring it and dividing it by 2, Or the easiest way I've found is just simply to draw a 45-degree angle from the corner of each piece here. On each corner, you draw a 45-degree angle. And where those two lines intersect is the center of the width of your stock. You take a combination square, line that up, draw your pencil mark there just to double check. Run the other side and test that. And that is directly in the center. No measuring, very easy to do. So now let's just mark the center of our mortise on our style piece here. We want to extend that across the piece at 90 degrees. Great. Alrighty. And now that we've established that center mark, let's mark it on our style piece here. And really the only measurement now that we have to establish is the start or the stop point, whichever one you think it is, the start and stop point of your mortise here. And the way I do that is just put the two pieces together, line them up flush and square, and let's just clamp them together. Just a quick clamp here. Once again, they're nice and flush. Double check that. Take your combination square, and come across the piece. So very quickly, we made our marks and established our centers, our stops, our starts of our mortise, and also the center of the thickness. And basically now we're ready to start setting up our cut.